for the rest of your life, you should never, ever, ever stop designing your time, assessing your time, reassessing your time, redesigning your day, your week, your month, your year, then do it over and over again. Change that schedule over and over again. Continually optimize it because you are forever changing. Your wants and needs are forever changing. So you have to continually evolve and change your time. Only today, I'd like to introduce a new theory I've been working on that I like to call the time design matrix. This will give you a way that you can start to look at your time and break it down into numbers that might make an impact on the way that you can begin to do it. I've been using it a lot lately, and it's been super helpful to me. So that's what we got cooking today. Welcome once again to the show. It is Build with Rob. You know what it is. Just out here trying to get everybody to think about themselves as a integrated living machine that you get to design and evolve and expand into your limitless potential. I call it the machine mindset. Manufacturing companies down here at the Dyrdek machine. Everything that we do is systematically fusing art, science, and magic. Wherever you listen to the show, appreciate you. If you're watching it, this beautiful setting inside my office, Beverly Hills, California, appreciate you. Like, subscribe, tell a friend, repost, DM me, hit me on LinkedIn, wherever you're going to catch me. Again, I appreciate everybody, especially in the streets, that see me, that we get caught up and engaged into a conversation about all things life design, time design, all the things that I talk about and preach about on this show. I recently put out an episode talking about the software that I would like to develop so that everybody can join along in the way that I operate my life system and make their own version of it. Got hit up by a lot of people who are in the software space that I think will be amazing and great assets to help me shape the product and build it over time. Of course, that's sort of the long-term vision of how to bring the overall system to the masses, if you will, where everybody can begin to design their life and create the harmonious, high-quality existence like your boy Rob has. All right, look, what I really want to break down today is I just want to kind of talk about time through numbers, and this idea that even when you start to design time and begin to block your time and really get good at being efficient and really getting in all the things that you want to do, past all the things that you have to do, and begin to design balance in your overall life and system, it's just the beginning. It's like I feel like, the further I get into sort of sharing my philosophy and while I'm living it and growing into it on an ongoing basis, I realize that it is more of a skill set that you get to develop over time rather than just a mindset. It's not necessarily just a way of thinking of like, hey, you want to be super efficient with your time and live a life of incredible intention. It's not just a way of thinking. It's also a skill set that you've got to develop over time and then just continually get better and better at it. And when it comes to like your life rhythm and your time and how things work, your life is constantly changing and evolving, and you'll design time in a certain way and you'll go through the process and realize, okay, I don't like this, and redesign your time again. In my case, it's like, I am just constantly trying to look for friction in my output and try to find places of how I could adjust the way that my time is designed to even get there in the first place. And for me, it's nonstop. If you hear me talk, you would think that like, oh man, he took all the time to design, took all the effort to design his time, and then he lives this, super balanced, harmonious life with intention because he has this rhythm of existence that he operates, and cool. I do, but it's constantly changing and evolving as I'm changing and evolving, and I constantly have to be reassessing it and try to think of new ways to essentially just have more energy in my days. And it seems like, man, like you could get to a certain level and you would be at this high level and that would be it. But the further up you get, the more opportunity you see to have more energy, be more optimized, have a higher output. And that really happened to me recently, when I was, looking at the way that I found time to execute. Like deep work where I actually have to do the execution. I tried to fit it in between meetings, and when I had blocks of time, like I would try to I have a lot of time in the mornings. I'm gonna put execution time in the morning before I have the meeting for that particular project later in the day. Or it's like I would just, I've got to get it sometime next week. Let me block an hour to work on this, whatever it may be. And I could do it, but man, I could feel the friction in it. I could just feel the friction in it. And so for me, I just, I had to be real with myself, that it just doesn't work as well as I would like. That ultimately it takes me a little bit of time to begin to get momentum in order to make execution time effective. That's just me. I can jump from thing to thing, from meeting, and be decisive and clear on sort of all the different things that I'm doing. I can jump from a meeting straight to a date night and be present. I can jump out of a meeting straight to pick up my kids and be present. But when I have to jump back into deep execution work, I need momentum, and I really designed my time initially, to get up earlier and have more time to execute in the mornings, right? And that would be the time when nobody can call me, and I got the couple extra hours in the morning before I meditate and wake up the kids and get in the gym. And what happens is I end up using that time for all different types of stuff, right? And when I don't have something to execute, I mainly would use that time for sort of free thinking and getting caught up and having it be more of this freestyle flow of what's been on my mind and what are things that maybe I want to work on, maybe I want to research, maybe I want to ideate on, maybe some smaller items that I want to put a little bit of depth into to push personal projects along or whatever it may be. But I realized, the moment that I try to block that time for just execution, that I would basically be behind in kind of the free thinking and the catching up and kind of that sort of free flow of thought that actually became super essential in sort of my way of life and sort of my overall energy. I always just looked at it as time. You know what I mean? Hey, you set aside these extra 2 hours. Look at you. You're getting up at 4 now. And now you got, all these extra hours to spend on working in the morning, and I didn't realize that the style of what was comfortable and what I enjoyed doing the most was more fluid. Whenever I put something structured in there, I try to get it done, but then I flow out into the fluidity of all the things that I really want to do. And I realized hey, you're not executing a lot of the things as much as you can in the morning. And then boom, what are you doing? You're trying to plan it throughout the week, but then you can't catch the momentum. And it forced me to rethink my entire schedule completely again, and what did I do? I just decided man, you have to do a completely dramatic redesign of your time. And look, that you don't ever want to go this deep and take these big shots and because they're difficult, because your life gets into a rhythm. I have, weekly meetings, bi-weekly meetings with companies. I have all of these meetings that fall within this time block that I wanted to adjust, but I knew it was the best thing for me, right? And I decided that, like, hey, I need that same 2 hours that I have in the morning that I use in more of this fluidity, sort of work on whatever's on top of mind and what you're feeling at the time to sort of, let it be more natural, then create a pure 2-hour execution block after you have gone to the gym, drop your kids off at school, caught up with your chief of staff, and now before you take a meeting again in the entire day, I blocked off 2.5 hours to execute. And I didn't do it, on Mondays and Tuesdays. I did that 7 days a week. I locked that in for 7 days a week. And as soon as I started, it was like my entire life changed. It's like I'm literally like 5 times as productive, and think about that. It's you're someone who's already so efficient, you're already highly optimized, but the moment you start to feel friction in your time and in your life, you've got to address it, and it's difficult at times and hard to see, but by adding a 2.5-hour execution block as part of my core time design, I literally became, 5 times as productive overnight. And the craziest thing is how I feel. By releasing that friction that was me, like, never getting momentum to execute and always kind of needing to push my bigger ideas that I ideate on further down the line to be finished when I could find the time to execute. I'm just doing it on a nonstop basis, which in turn is giving me much more fulfillment in my overall life and adding much more energy to my present experience of what it means to work on all the projects on top of moving all of them along at a much higher pace, So, I just wanted to share that more from the perspective of, like, you're always changing. Your life is always changing. Everything's always evolving. And so constantly assessing and not being afraid to make big changes in the way that you design your time and the way that the rhythm of your life flows is worth it, because you're always just optimizing back to your energy, and how each day feels as a whole, and for me, it's like, it's a skill set that you get better and better at over time. And then you're evolving, the world's evolving, your time's evolving. So you constantly have to be sort of changing it, and for me, like, when I start to look at these time blocks, I start to look at them in percentages, right? And that's, where I've been thinking a lot lately about this concept of the time design matrix, like, really, if you're trying to build a balanced and harmonious life, and your life is 100%, and every year is 8,760 hours per year, and really, every hour you use on a consistent basis, call it every day, like, it begins to really, really break down how much time that you spend in a more simple way and where you spend it, right? And I've talked a little bit about, how the percentages of time that I track and how I know from tracking all my time that I live this balanced life, and that over time I have continued to create a much higher output with less time working. But when you start to go through the matrix of 8,760, let's say you do something for 1 hour a day every single day, it's 4% of your time. You know what I'm saying? It's 4% of your time, and really you just, take, 1 hour a day, 365 hours divided by 8,760, you got 4%. You know what I mean? That now becomes this sort of way of like looking at like, okay, where am I spending all of my time in my life? You know, you sleep 7 hours a day. You're talking about 29% of your life, and that's gone. You know what I mean? So you can begin to like look at like how much time you even have available by just beginning to look at life through these percentages by just saying, 8,760. What am I doing? How many hours is it? What is the time frame? I think I think about, the one that I always talk about more than anything is how I shoot 252 episodes of television a year, and that it's 4% of my entire life, my 4% of my time in that year inside the matrix. I take my kids to school every day, and it ends up being about about an hour and a half, if they go to school, about an hour and a half a week, call it 7.5 hours a week I dedicate to dropping off and picking up my kids, 36 weeks a year, give or take, that right there, 300 hours divided by 8,760, it's about 3%. You know what I mean? And so again, I'm just using a calculator to begin to map out where am I spending time and how much do I like spending that time? What is the value of that time long term, right? Also is another way to look at it. But then ultimately looking at it from a percentage basis of your whole life. If I ultimately know I got 70% of my life to live because I'm sleeping 30% of it primarily, and again, I know, sometimes, I'll get deep into the numbers, but what I like about the time design matrix is it's easy for anyone to apply to get to understand where they're spending their time at scale over a year, depending on what they do. And again, it's super easy. You take a look at the stuff that you do all the time, you multiply it. You take a look at the number of hours you're spending on something, a day, a week, a year, whatever the time is. Get the final number of hours you spend per year, divide it up by 8,760. You got yourself a percentage, and prepare to be disappointed in yourself. Listen to me. Prepare to be disappointed in yourself when you start to use the time matrix and start looking at percentages of where you spend time. Like I watch way more TV than I probably should. You know what I mean? And I'm embarrassed to sit here as the highly optimized machine mindset guy to tell you that I might watch too much television, and I'm embarrassed to sit here and tell you that I probably watch a couple hours of television a day. You know what I mean? And it's hard for me it's hard for me to sit here by myself in this studio shooting a podcast where I'm just talking to the world through the lens of trying to inspire them, only looking back on myself as I begin to look at my overall efficiency on a continuing basis, and will still ignore the fact that I will dedicate, we're talking 8-9% of my time to watching TV. You know what I'm saying? Saying it out loud is embarrassing. It's embarrassing, But when I look at my overall life, I look at like, well, why do you do that? Well, it is also time that you spend with your wife, and you enjoy your programs and whatever that may be. But there is no doubt when I look at where is the inefficiency and where am I basically wasting away the precious percentages of life that you actually have. It's on the couch. It's on the couch with my cat, my dog, and my wife. You know what I mean? Watching something that that has no meaningful impact in my existence, other than to completely relax and forget about everything. You know what I mean? Is what it is. But look, that's just another example of how easy it is, to quantify the amount of time that you're spending and what you're doing. and then comparing that to how you spend other things in your life that aren't output based, that may be relax based, like watching TV type of thing. But all it does is give you an easier way to just understand the value of your time, but ultimately the impact of sort of these ongoing sort of structured like time uses that you build naturally, in how much of an impact they're taking away from your overall experience of life without even fully understanding their value. Or in the case of getting up earlier and working, how it can make an incredible impact on the amount of mind share and dedication of time that you're actually committed to. Will seem small, but is actually a pretty big percentage compared to other things that you're doing in your life. And, I think for me, even as I've watched my time percentages evolve and spending more time with my kids and my family and my wife and working less, it's still about output in time and experience in time, right? Because at the end of the day, you're still wanting to use that time so that you can experience it with joy and experience it in its present form, right? Because don't forget, you're trying to design your system and your time around energy, and how do you end up doing like stuff that gives you energy every day? And energy is that joy and excitement for whatever you're doing, whatever you're creating, whatever you're working on, whoever you're spending time with. And remember, you can only understand the type of energy it's giving you and assess that energy in the present moment. Energy only lives in that present moment, and you're really trying to get better and better at using that time to put you with intent into a place that you can experience joy and high energy, and for me, parts of working provide that for me. And I even look at spending a percentage of my time to design time and continually assess time as giving me energy, because it just excites me about about what I'm going to live through and experience in the future, when it comes to work, it's like work's almost like the more stable and easier place to understand where your commitment of time is, because you got to think, you work a 40-hour week, it's 23% of your time, you know what I mean? It's 2,000 hours a year, you know what I mean? It's like, and for me, I've been working, about the equivalency of that 25% of my time. And you got to think, I'm now giving a big portion of that to the mornings and that free work and that free flow, because that 2 hours in the morning, because I get up so early, that's 8% of my overall work time. And then now when you add that 2.5 hour block of time, you're talking now, we're talking 16, 18% of my total work time is done within the rhythm of sort of my morning flow. Then I built the rest of my afternoon for more ongoing meetings, stuff that can be moved around and be more adaptive as it relates to what's going on inside the current rhythm of my life, and what other meetings that I have to take, podcast interviews, shooting this show, whatever it may be. But it's the continual sort of understanding of how you're using time and what you're doing with time, and being able to see it in a percentage form also is this amazing way for you to build time awareness, and really know how you're being super effective, how you're being lazy, or where you are just outright wasting time. So look, wherever you are, just always think about how important it is to make sure that you're here for a reason. Your goal is to live with intention, and the best way to do that is to get really, really good at designing time and use the design matrix. How many hours a year divided by 8,760 to get you a percentage to total up your 100% to show you how you're living your life, because that's what it's all about. It's just all about driving to that harmonious, high quality existence that we preach down here. All right, that is it for our show today. Appreciate you all. Again, wherever you listen to the show, like, subscribe, comment. Want to get involved in our world, everything runs through dyrdekmachine.com. And again, keep putting your eyes on the prize, Keep creating a plan that can get you to the prize, and then give it all you got to get there. Till next time, see it, believe it, do it.